problem that we're facing. And you're all throughout the day hearing about a number of 150 million. And so what I want to do is sort of walk you through how we got from 89 to 150. And we're going to focus on the second page of this package. The first was sort of how we got to the 89. The second page is a spreadsheet version of this, and the third, just to give you a flavor, is the same thing but in words. And so I think what I'll do is try the second page, and we've done this. Interrupt me if I get incoherent, because it's a lot of information, and this is just to give you a flavor of what's been going on. Just the first column, the FY09, the year that just ended, you had a $143 million budget gap, and this is just for orientation. 24 million were reductions and adjustments during the recession. 43, we did 2 rescissions, and that was $43 million. And we used 75 million of federal era dollars, and that's pretty much how we solved that 143. This current year, FY10, the problem was around $315 million. 77 million, again, were reductions and adjustments during the session. We did 1 rescission of 21 million. New revenue last year, 26 million. And we used 175 million of era dollars. And the era dollars really were 9, we did the 75, 175 and 10, 111 starting to disappear, and then 0 and 12. So that's going to be a big problem. We're sort of watching the era money go away. When it goes away, then the underlying economy hits us in our revenues. Caseload reserve, we're using our reserve in the caseload reserve this year. And even with that, we have a $5.8 million negative number, and that's going to be with budget adjustments we're going to try to solve. And so that'll be happening next week in the House, I think, or the week after. There'll be a budget adjustment bill. But $5.8 million on a $1.2 billion budget is pretty mild. I mean, other states around us for FY10 are dealing with a fairly substantial problem, and our problems all weighted here. Our problems are all the budget we're about to deal with. So for FY11, you see the 189 million, and that's just the difference between revenues, general fund revenues, and general fund expenses. And we assume in that about a 3.5% growth rate. First, we take off the 100 million left of era money, and that's the 89.9 million that we assumed in November, and there was a amount there. And then the rest of this is just how we got from this 89.9 or 90 million to 150 million. The first thing this sheet talks about is, this is one of those years, every 9 or 10 years we have a 27th pay period, because we pay people every 2 months. And so what happens is, I guess this is somebody else might do it better than I do. You pay people every 2 weeks, and not every year has exactly 52 weeks, there's extra days, and they pile up. And every 10 years or so, there happens to be that 1 year where you have an extra paycheck in that year. And what we've done in the past is that we've rolled that into the coming year. We've sort of changed the pay scale so it doesn't hit. But the problem with 2011, we're going to come back to this, is 2012 is worse. And so one of the issues is, rolling it forward isn't a good thing. And we'll talk about 2012 in a minute. One of the things that when you deal with the 2011 crisis, 150 million is huge. And after what we've been doing in the last 2 years, it's, all the sort of rabbits are gone, even the droppings are sort of gone at this point. I'm not sure what's left. And then the problem is when you look at 12, after you do all this, you have to do it again 100 million. So it's we're not sure, and the administration, we'll talk about that, doesn't want to roll much forward. They'd rather just deal with it. And we'll talk about one of the big things in that in a minute. So the 27th pay period, vendors too that are paid by the week. We have to cover a 53rd week this year. Other things, renter rebate, super circuit breaker, those are like people that are earning less than $47,000 a year, are limited on how much they have to pay for income sensitivity or for property taxes. And if their incomes go down, our costs go up. And that seems to happen. Teachers' retirement. We had a You all heard, basically, when the stock market goes down, the value of our retirement assets goes down with it. And so then we do actuarial projection in the long term. And in order to cover our teacher retirement needs and state employee retirements, we need to add $28 million just, fund those programs. One of the things we thought about was This is based on actuarial assumptions as of June 30th. And said, okay, well, since June 30th, revenues have gone up, you know, the market's done really well. Shouldn't we forecast now and take advantage of that and not have to make as much cuts? But the way the whole teacher retirement system works and to employees is whenever there's losses, we spread over 5 years. And there's sort of a process of smoothing that goes on. So we have horrible losses in FY 2030. A loss that when the stock market goes down and your fund in 2008 dropped in value, that loss in value we sort of take and divide by 5 and only attribute that much to each year. So the gains that we would have between June 30th and January would also have to be spread over 5 years. And so it really doesn't make a lot of difference. But basically, we have we sort of take an actuarial value of our assets. We take our assets, lower them by 1/5 of the losses, and so I mean the bad news is this problem of 28 million of extra money in teacher retirement, so employees retirement isn't the end of the problem. It's like we have a lot of uncounted losses that are going to keep with us for the next 3 or 4 years. And so this teacher retirement and employee retirement fund, this is a big deal. And you're going to hear, if you haven't seen the, might have the treasurer talk about the retirement commission. I wouldn't be surprised if the governor includes that in his budget. There's a lot of changes to that.
Question. If I understood you correctly, then all these phone calls and letters we're getting from every teacher, this year it won't affect their retirement fund, the amount they put in the general fund. Is that correct?
No. Not first of all, the general thinking is nothing really affects what they get in their benefits because we have to come up with the money somehow. But what it means is our assets, the money we've saved to help cover those expenses, has gone down fairly dramatically. We don't count the full diminution of value. We don't. What we do is we say, well, the stock market goes up and down, and so what we do is we always assume it grows at 8% a year, and any sort of shortfall from that we divide by 5 and count it in. We sort of smooth it out so that the bad years, the good years, averages. So like let's say a really good year this year, and then divide that by 5. It'll mean that the next year's fund will sort of be higher than it would if we didn't have a good year, but lower than it wouldn't if we had counted it all at once. So it means that the phone calls and letters they're very concerned. There's a lot on the table, and the governor's going to propose doing a lot of things. The treasurer is, and I wouldn't be surprised if the legislature also has to take actions on that area.
Steve?
Yeah.
The 26.1 million, is that actual new revenues or projected new revenues?
Tell me what the
FY10.
FY10. That was what we projected when we passed the tax bill.
So that's not, we haven't actually got to 26.1 million.
That's what we raised in revenue for FY10. That was, and what we actually did is when you build the forecast for FY10, you're right, it all goes into that gigantic forecast, and the forecast didn't grow by 26.1. They've gone down, but it's all mushed together now. But that's just how we solved the problem we left here. But overall, our revenues have been, they were down a little bit in July, but we've actually raised them a little bit in November, and we're going to reforecast in January. So they're pretty close to being where we, well, yeah, pretty close. We did one cut in July, a decision, but it's not sort of baked into the process.